With just $1,000, he uncovered the amazing journey that built a billion-dollar subway empire. Jake Thompson stood at the precipice of change, just $1,000 separating him from heartache and hope. The factory that had been his refuge for years had closed its doors, and with it, the lifeline for him, his 2 kids, and his wife, Lisa. He could still hear the sound of machines humming, the smell of sweat and grease lingering in the back of his mind, a reminder of better days. As he trudged through the dilapidated streets of his small Ohio town, shadows of the once vibrant community loomed ominously. The giant, faded sign of an old subway station caught his eye, an abandoned relic that sparked a whisper of inspiration deep within him. The town felt like an echo of its former subway stations, stitched with memories of laughter, friendship, and shared meals, now lying dormant and desolate. Jake remembered the stories his grandfather once told about his own little sandwich shop. Those weren't just sandwiches. They were an offering of warmth, community, and connection. This thought enveloped Jake, igniting a fire he'd buried under the ashes of life's struggles. What if he could breathe life back into the heart of the town? What if the old subway station could transform into a food market where families gathered, laughter ringing through the air? The glimmer of a dream sparkled like stars in the night sky. But Jake knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The city council, a group more focused on budgets than people, met his enthusiasm with crossed arms and skeptical looks. "You're dreaming," one member sneered during a heated town hall meeting. Frustration bubbled inside him, but there was something deeper at stake. Jake needed to show the world that hope could rise from the ashes. He envisioned friends, neighbors, and families banding together, hanging on his words like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. The urgency of the moment was palpable. Imagine a gathering place filled with vibrant colors, fresh food, and smiling faces. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As night fell, Jake found himself at the kitchen table, cluttered with remnants from their simple dinner. Smiles exchanged between bites. Lisa's unwavering support bolstered him. Yet as he watched his kids play in the other room, their carefree laughter clashed harshly with the weight on his heart. He envisioned failure, the shadows of doubt creeping in, tightening his chest until breathing felt like a chore. His grandfather's spirit lingered in the air, urging him to push on. That raw hope surged once more, almost palpable. Determined, Jake organized a fundraiser at the community center. Word spread quickly, and he could sense collective anticipation, a spark in the air. But doubts nagged at him. Whispers of uncertainty stirred in his mind. What if no one showed up? What if his dreams faded like colors in the twilight sky? The moment of greatest impact struck when he stood before the council again, this time filled with conviction. "Revitalize this place," he cried, voice shaking with emotion, heart hammering in his chest. "Together, we can bring back the joy that once filled these streets." The room fell silent. Faces shifted. Could this ordinary man really stir them into action? Yet even as hope surged through him, the mayor's dismissive gesture stifled that optimism close to the surface. Jake left that meeting, pulse racing and thoughts racing faster, uncertain of what tomorrow would bring. Hope flickered like a candle in the night, and he couldn't help but wonder, had he pushed too far? Or was this just the beginning of a journey that could change everything? Jake awoke early the next morning, sunlight spilling through the window, painting the walls in warm hues of gold. Today was the day of the fundraiser, and the weight of anticipation settled heavily on his shoulders. He could feel the nervous energy buzzing in his veins, a mixture of hope and anxiety igniting a fire in his belly. He dressed quickly, glancing at the kids still tangled in their blankets, peaceful and unaware of the challenges looming ahead. At the community center, Jake's heart raced as he prepared for what felt like a defining moment. Tables were set, banners hung, and the aroma of coffee mingled with the chatter of early attendees. With every smile exchanged, he felt a flicker of reassurance. Perhaps this dream wouldn't die as easily as he feared. He took a deep breath, surveying the room. Faces he recognized from the neighborhood gathered around, each one telling a story of struggle and resilience. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, the crowd swelled, hands shaking and tremors of excitement coursing through the air. Jake grabbed the microphone, his hands steadying as he looked out at the sea of familiar faces. "Thank you for being here," he began, his voice breaking not from fear, but from passion. "This isn't just about a food market. It's about us, about bringing our community back to life. I know we can do it together." Each word hung in the air, infused with the dreams of shared meals, laughter, and belonging. A murmured agreement rose from the crowd, igniting his enthusiasm. Jake spoke of his grandfather's sandwich shop, the warmth and connection that came from breaking bread together. Each anecdote wove threads of nostalgia that pulled at his neighbors' hearts. He could see their eyes glisten with memories of shared meals and laughter too. When he finished, the applause was unexpected and thunderous. It filled the room and lifted him, a wave of affirmation crashing over his doubts. But as the clapping dwindled, one voice, cold and skeptical, broke through the warmth. "You really think we can turn that old station into something? It's just a pipe dream." Jake's heart sank. In an instant, the excitement threatened to wither under the harsh glare of cynicism. But as he searched the crowd, he noticed familiar faces nodding, a spark of belief dancing behind their eyes. "This is not just my dream," he replied firmly, locking eyes with the naysayer. "It's ours. Together, we'll prove that we can revive this town." With that, he showcased the plans of a vibrant food market filled with local vendors and family recipes. He had created a visual presentation, complete with sketches and potential menus. Each slide brought excitement back into the space, laughter and chatter igniting once more. As the evening unfolded, individuals stepped up to offer their support, from donations to time and resources. Each promise solidified a bond, transforming whispers of skepticism into a chorus of unity. The energy was electric. But as the night dimmed and attendees began to head home, Jake felt a pit of uncertainty yawning wide within him. Would their support be enough? What if challenges knocked at his door before he could even start? Lisa grasped his hand, squeezing it gently. "You ignited something in them, Jake. We're just getting started." Standing at the edge of possibility, he nodded, the weight of hope pressing him forward. Yet, deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. What obstacles lay ahead? Would they have to fight harder against the naysayers and doubts again? The night sky opened up above them, stars twinkling like the dreams he held close to his heart. Jake took a breath, ready for whatever would come next, unaware of how close he was to an unexpected turning point in his journey. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. Jake threw himself into the preparations for the community market, fueled by the energy of that night. Each morning, he woke up with newfound determination, drafting plans and reaching out to everyone who expressed interest. There were phone calls to make, emails to send, and community meetings to organize. The once quiet streets buzzed with the possibility of change, and he wanted to ride that wave as far as it would take him. But with excitement came doubt. Jake often found himself staring at the old train station, its peeling paint and rusted beams a reminder of the uphill battle he faced. Could they really transform it into a thriving gathering place? His heart raced and anxiety crept back in. What if no one showed up to the market? What if the vendors he had convinced to join him backed out? He had started leaning on Lisa more than usual, their late-night conversations turning into planning sessions as they sought to nut out every detail. "Let us meet with the vendors this Friday," Lisa suggested one evening, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If they see the space in person, maybe it'll inspire them. We can even set up a little mock market." Jake nodded, grateful for her positivity. Together, they turned their kitchen table into a headquarters filled with sketches, pricing sheets, and calendars. The next few days dragged, filled with both anxious anticipation and determination. Jake watched as his once quiet neighborhood became a canvas of potential. Flyers fluttered on windshields, social media posts caught fire, and the community buzzed with anticipation. People began sharing stories, from fond memories of meals shared to hopes for new beginnings. It reminded Jake that every step he took was not in isolation. He was carrying his neighbors' hopes alongside him. Friday arrived faster than he expected. Tension knotted in his stomach as he and Lisa stood at their makeshift table, watching the vendors arrive. Faces were painted with uncertainty, just like his own. Would this really be worth their time? As each vendor stepped onto the property, Jake shared the vision. He spoke from the heart. This isn't just about selling food. It's about creating a place where families can gather. It's about reviving that spark in our community. With every story of connection and nostalgia, he could see the vendors slowly shifting, a kindling of enthusiasm igniting in their eyes. By the end of the evening, they had formed a small circle of committed vendors, each pledging to be a part of the market's opening day. Jake's heart swelled with pride, but it was accompanied by that ever-familiar whisper of doubt. What if things fell through? What if the community didn't show up? But then, as Lisa burst through the door with excitement in her eyes, it was hard to suppress his joy. "Jake, you won, believe it. The local paper wants to feature our story." "Really?" he replied, his pulse quickening. "Yes. They see the heart behind this and want to help spread the word." As they jumped into a celebratory dance, a thought crossed Jake's mind. How far could this go? But just then, a message pinged on his phone. It was from a friend, warning him of a possible setback involving local powers that be who had little faith in their plan. Jake's joy faltered. The road ahead was still far from smooth, and doubts began to creep back in. Would they manage to turn this dream into reality, or would the voices of skepticism drown them out? He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everyone's hopes resting on his shoulders. Could he handle the pressure? Would they find a way to overcome the obstacles looming in front of them? As he stared down at the scrolling message, the only thing he could gather was clarity. Change wouldn't come easy, but he was willing to fight for it. What he didn't know was that the next few days would be a test of perseverance unlike anything he had faced before. Would they be able to unite the community in a moment of crisis, or would it all fall apart? The clock was ticking. The weekend passed in a blur. Jake was restless, the weight of the upcoming market pressing down like a heavy blanket. Every moment brought the nagging voice of doubt back to the forefront of his mind. He tossed and turned, running scenarios through his head, and the message from his friend echoed relentlessly. Local officials were known to be resistant to change. What if they shut him down before he even got started? By Monday morning, he decided to face the storm head-on. "We can't let fear hold us back," he told Lisa as they sat at their usual table, papers strewn across the surface like fallen leaves. "We have to go to the city council meeting tonight. If we can make them see the potential, they might come around." Lisa looked up, concern etching her brow. "Are you sure? What if it doesn't go well?" Jake leaned forward, urgency filling his voice. "We need to hear their concerns. If we can show them what we already have in place, maybe they'll reconsider. Plus, we need their support to get the permits. Without that, everything we've done could be for nothing." That settled it. They spent the afternoon preparing, crafting a presentation that highlighted the community's support and the vendors ready to contribute. Stories of neighborhood unity swirled in Jake's mind, fueling his resolve. As night fell, he could feel the vibrations of anxiety thrumming through him. The city council chamber was packed, the atmosphere electric with anticipation. He stole glances at the council members, their expressions a mix of indifference and curiosity. Each of them held a reputation, and he couldn't afford to stumble. When the time came, Jake and Lisa stepped forward. The weight of their community rested on Jake's shoulders as he spoke. He felt the warmth of their hopes and their faith carrying him. This project isn't just about selling. It's about reigniting a sense of community, he started, carefully watching the faces before him. This market will be a home base for everyone, a place for laughter, stories, and connections. As he talked about the vendors and the heart behind the market, whispers rippled through the crowd. He could tell he was striking a chord. Imagine families coming together, organizing events, and sharing meals. He let his voice soften, urging the council to feel the promise of their vision. But then he saw the skeptical glances from one member who seemed determined to tear it all down. What proof do you have that this will actually work? People talk a good game, but words won't fill your stalls, he challenged. Jake felt his pulse quicken. It's not just words, he countered, heart racing. It's the people of this community. The vendors are committed. They're risking their livelihoods for this chance because they believe it matters. The council members exchanged glances. He could only hope that his sincerity reached them. Lisa stepped in, reinforcing his points with passion that shone in her eyes, weaving in personal stories of neighbors and their dreams. When they finished, applause erupted from some corner of the room, but Jake caught the wary squeeze of lips from others. As they left the podium, he felt a mix of hope and uncertainty settling in his chest. Would they listen? Would they believe in the dream they were crafting together? After a long evening, they received a promise to reconsider their request. But Jake knew it wouldn't stop there. The real battle lay ahead. They needed to rally the community, build momentum, and face any opposition that came their way. As they made their way home, Jake felt new determination surge within him. This was just one step. The real fight was yet to come. But would they be able to mobilize their community in time, or would fear and doubt overshadow their vision before they even had a chance? The next morning felt different. Sunlight streamed through Jake's window, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing with thoughts of the council meeting. Was it enough? Could their words reach those in power? He rolled out of bed, the floor cool beneath his feet, grounding him. Over breakfast, he and Lisa turned their attention to the upcoming days. We need to gather more support, Jake said, his voice steady but urgent. If we show them how many people are behind this, they can't ignore us. Lisa nodded, her determination mirroring his. Let us start with social media. We can create a buzz. Maybe a petition? She sipped her coffee, her brow furrowing as ideas flowed. As they brainstormed, Jake felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Seeing the excitement in Lisa's eyes, he remembered why they had embarked on this journey. It wasn't just about the market. It was about fostering community, creating a place where laughter and connection could flourish. They spent the day building a plan. Flyers, social media posts, and gathering local support became their mission. They reached out to vendors, artists, and families, sharing their vision, inviting everyone to be part of something bigger than themselves. Slowly but surely, the energy began to shift. Days turned into a week, every moment filled with meetings, conversations, and the kind of grassroots organizing that made Jake's heart swell. Each signature on their petition felt like a little victory. They shared stories about how the market could change lives, connecting neighbors in a way that modern life often failed to do. Then they received the news that would alter their course. The city council had arranged a follow-up meeting. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline and fear. Would this be a chance to really solidify the community's voice? Or was it a last-ditch effort to quell his ambition? Tonight is the night, Jake told Lisa as they stood in front of the mirror, adjusting their clothes. We have to show them we're not just passionate. We're committed. We're a force. At the meeting, the tension was palpable. Each council member sat with their usual stoic expressions. Jake felt his hands sweat as he stood before them again. Back rows were filled with familiar faces from the community. Friends, neighbors, and families had come to support their dream. When he began speaking, the words flowed out, charged with sincerity. We're not asking for a handout. We offer something that belongs to all of us, a chance to come together and celebrate who we are. But just as he thought he was making headway, the same skeptical member interrupted. Words are nice, but what if it fails? You're putting money on the line, and that can't be taken lightly. Jake felt his heart race but didn't falter. What if you're wrong? He shot back, his voice steadier than he felt. What if this market becomes a cornerstone of this city, revitalizing not just businesses but relationships. We owe it to our community to try. The room fell silent. A few heads nodded. Others remained stone-faced. But anticipation was thick in the air. Lisa, emboldened by the atmosphere, stood up and shared personal stories. She spoke of families who had suffered through economic downturns, emphasizing how they longed for that spark of connection. "This isn't just about business," she said, her voice resonating softly but firmly. "It's about healing our community. We need this. They need this." As murmurs stirred within the crowd, Jake felt something shift. There was potential in those whispers, a real desire for change. They were waiting for the council to respond. But would they truly see the vision and allow it to take root? Or would they bury Jake's dream before it ever had a chance to grow? As he scanned the faces, he felt a mix of hope and trepidation. Tonight, Jake thought, could change everything. But would it? The weight of their dreams rested on a cliffhanger, one that could either elevate them or plunge them into despair. The room filled with an almost electric tension, each set of eyes trained on the council members. Jake's heart raced as he took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of support behind him. It was the small kindnesses, the shared smiles of the community, that anchored him. The head councilman finally spoke, breaking the silence. "We've heard your passion this evening. But it's not just about ideas or desires. It's about facts and data. Do you have a plan?" Jake felt the weight of the clamor rising around him. For a moment, the dream felt fragile, as if it could shatter under the burden of reality. "Yes," he replied confidently without hesitating. "We're building a sustainable business model and collecting data from similar initiatives elsewhere. I promise you, this will not only strengthen our economy but give our citizens a place to thrive." The council members exchanged glances, some still skeptical but others appeared intrigued. A hand shot up from the back. It was Bert, the local butcher. "I've seen the changes in our neighborhood. Our people are looking for community. We need a space to create that. This market could be a starting point for a brighter future." His voice cracked with emotion, but the power behind it was palpable. Jake glanced at Lisa, her eyes bright, and he could feel his resolute spirit match the intensity around him. More voices began to rise in support. Stories that echoed their dreams wove a beautiful tapestry of hope and connection. An elderly woman named Mrs. Peterman, known for her cheerful knitting circles, stood. "I remember the days when every Sunday felt like a celebration in the park. We need that again. I want to knit and sell my crafts where people can gather and smile again." As the support surged, Jake's nerves began to settle, the dream feeling closer to reality. But doubt lingered. Would it be enough to convince the council? He adjusted his stance, feeling like he was on a precipice, with countless eyes focused on the outcome. Finally, the head councilman raised his hand, silencing the crowd. "This is what we need in our community: passion and support. But we require a concrete action plan before making any endorsements. If you can produce that in a week, we'll reconvene for a possible vote on your proposal." A palpable excitement swept through the room. Jake felt relief washing over him. They were still in the game. As the meeting came to an end, people flocked around him, eager to brainstorm ideas and contribute. They were ready to work, to fortify the framework of their dream. Later that evening, Jake and Lisa sat at their kitchen table, surrounded by papers, coffee cups, and the echo of laughter and lively conversation that surrounded them just hours before. "Did you see the way they reacted?" Lisa beamed, her phone alive with notifications from friends excited about the next steps. "If we can keep this momentum, we might just have a shot." "Yeah," Jake replied, still riding the wave of adrenaline. "But we need to dig deeper, get our hands on research, and design a solid business outline. The stakes are too high for half measures." As they began to outline goals, the door to possibility felt wide open, yet anxiety edged in. What if they stumbled? What if the council changed their minds? They were so close, yet the path ahead remained fraught with uncertainty. As the stars began to twinkle outside, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something crucial was just out of reach in the quiet of the night. He whispered, "We have to make this work, Lisa. There's too much riding on it." But as they dove into their research, a nagging question lingered. What would they discover? And how far would they need to stretch their resolve to deliver an unforgettable proposal? The sun rose softly the next morning, casting a warm glow over the kitchen where Jake and Lisa had spent the night in a flurry of ideas and plans. The air was thick with coffee, and the papers strewn across the table felt like a canvas waiting for their masterpiece. Jake sipped his coffee, his heart still thrumming with the excitement of the previous night. Okay, let's break it down. We need to showcase why this market not only matters but how it's going to help everyone, he said, his voice steady but his mind racing. Lisa nodded, her pen poised above a notepad. We can highlight the local artisans, how their crafts can revive the community's spirit, maybe even include a section on job creation. Let us show how this market isn't just about selling, it's about bringing people together. As they worked through the details, he could see her confidence growing. Her mind danced between ideas and solutions, but sticky thoughts clouded the edges of Jake's optimism. Would it be enough? Would they genuinely capture the council's interest? Let's include numbers, data points showing the economic impact of similar markets in comparable towns, he suggested, grimacing slightly at the thought of poring over so many spreadsheets. Good idea, Lisa exclaimed, jotting it down. And testimonials, real voices from our community, not just statistics. People need to feel the heartbeat of this project. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher in the sky. They flipped through pages filled with scribbles, half-formed sketches, and fierce enthusiasm. Eventually, they decided to take a break, grabbing sandwiches from a nearby deli. The owner, an elderly man named Mr. Chong, brightened at their arrival. You two look like you're on a mission, he said, wrapping their sandwiches with a smile that twinkled in his eyes. This community needs more spirit. I'll support you just like I've always done. Jake felt a surge of pride, realizing how every small connection in town fueled their bigger goal. Thank you, Mr. Chong, he replied, truly grateful. We're trying to make a difference. As they stepped outside, Lisa's enthusiasm bubbled over. Let us hit the farmers' market this weekend. We can gather more stories and get people even more excited. Great idea, Jake agreed, though the weight of everything loomed over him. But, Lisa, he hesitated, if we're going to present this properly, we might need to reconsider some things. Our strengths are in our connections, in how we tell our story. What if we created a mini presentation, even a video? Something that showcases community artistically? Lisa paused. That's a lot, Jake. Do we have time? He shrugged, wrestling with the truth. Not only that, but we need to work fast. If we do this, we'll have to reach out to everyone, ask for their help. Are we ready for that? That night, they made a list of people to contact. The local musicians, artists, and even the kids planning to sell lemonade. Each name carried a weight. Each connection could resonate with the council. They would invite everyone into the fold, their story transforming into something shared, invited, and vibrant. Yet, as he scrawled the names, Jake felt a tremor of doubt. What if they failed to unite this vision? Could they truly pull this off within the timeline? He turned to Lisa, a spark of desperation flickering in his eyes. We can't let the pressure break us. It has to be about unity, not just a proposal, he said. Then let us make sure everyone knows they're a part of this, and make them feel it, she replied, determination etched on her face. That night, as they outlined their collective dream, a sense of resolve settled over them. But the ultimate question loomed like a shadow. Would their community's shared voice be enough to convince the council? As they lay in bed, the house silent around them, Jake whispered, "What if we're pushing too hard?" Lisa turned to him, her voice soft yet fierce. "We have to believe in it, Jake. If we don't, who else will?" In that moment of silence, one thought became clear. The coming days would prove the heart of their ambitious journey. Would they forge the connections needed to materialize their dream? The thought echoed in his mind relentlessly. The next morning, Jake and Lisa woke up to a vivid sunrise spilling light into their small living room. They barely slept, exhaustion painted on their faces, but a bubbling energy fueled their every move. The promise of the weekend's farmers' market loomed ahead, a chance to access the community's heart and broaden their vision into something truly vibrant. At breakfast, Lisa was unusually quiet, her eyes darting across the table littered with their notes and sketches. Jake felt that familiar tension tightening in the air. "You all right?" he asked, trying to catch her eye. "I'm just thinking," she said, finally meeting his gaze. "What if people don't connect with this as we hope? What if they see it as just another project? We need to make it personal. We need to tell stories, not just facts." Jake's heart raced at her sudden change in tone. "That's the key, Lisa. Personal stories, local faces who actually believe in this. But how do we find them fast enough?" His thoughts ricocheted through ideas he hadn't yet articulated. "You're right," she nodded, determination reigniting. "We start reaching out today. Let us make it a goal to talk to at least 5 people we haven't connected with yet. They'll bring fresh perspectives, and we may discover something unexpected." As they wrapped their sandwiches and prepared to head out, Jake glanced back at the pile of papers, a wave of apprehension crashing over him. His past held stories of dreams that weren't realized. What if this was just another one? "Jake, come on. We've got this." "One step at a time," Lisa said, slinging her bag over her shoulder, a buoyant pillar of optimism as they stepped into the crisp morning air. Their first stop was a local pottery studio. The owner, a spirited woman named Marlene, welcomed them with open arms. She listened eagerly as they pitched their idea, her hands stained with vibrant paint. "It's about time someone brought the community together. I'd love to help," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. As they moved from place to place, each encounter painted a clearer picture of their community's tapestry. A group of musicians offered to play at the market for free. The local bakery agreed to donate pastries. They spoke with artists who wanted to display their work, each person bursting with excitement and ideas. But then they ran into Ethan, a teenage boy who had dreams bigger than his small-town roots. He was selling lemonade by the roadside. His sun-kissed skin glowed as he mixed drinks for customers. But there was something deeper behind his bright smile ambition. "Hey, Ethan, what do you think about our market idea?" Lisa asked, crouching down to meet his eyes. His brow furrowed for a moment as he contemplated. "Could be cool, but sometimes people forget why they started. I just hope you keep it real. Not just numbers, you know?" His words struck Jake like lightning. He hadn't considered the risk of losing touch with their original vision. "You're completely right, Ethan. It's all about heart. Thanks." As they walked away, Jake felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Could they truly keep the heart alive as the proposal grew? What if the weight of expectations dulled the vibrancy they sought to create? Exhausted but invigorated, they returned home, their minds buzzing with potential stories to weave. The level of unity felt palpable, yet lingering uncertainty loomed like a fog in Jake's heart. That night, as they prepared to put everything together, Lisa paused. "Jake, what if the council doesn't get it? What if they don't see the same vision we do?" Her voice broke slightly, pulling at the insecurities he had tried to bury. "Then we show them why it matters. We tell them why we believe in it. Our passion can't just fade away." "Yeah, you're right," he said, though the sense of urgency still shadowed them. As they stared at their papers filled with colorful sketches and hopeful pitches, a whisper of fear crept in. Would their voices be strong enough to cut through the noise, to inspire real change? In that moment of doubt, they shared a glance, both feeling the weight of their dreams balanced precariously before them. They had to believe. They had to push through the uncertainty. But as they fell asleep, exhausted, one nagging thought echoed in Jake's mind. What if, despite their best efforts, they weren't able to communicate their vision as clearly as they wanted? Would the community's heartbeat resonate in the council chamber? The next day dawned gray and overcast, a stark contrast to the colorful dreams Jake and Lisa had painstakingly sketched out just hours before. The weight of uncertainty hung in the air, almost as thick as the clouds above. Jake had a restless night, tossing and turning, and that tight feeling returned, knotting in his stomach as he sipped his morning coffee. "I wish the sun would come out," Lisa said, pushing a stray hair behind her ear. Her spirit seemed to dim with the weather. "Feels like a sign, you know? Like everything we're trying to do is clouded by doubt. We can't let the weather get to us." We have work to do, Jake said, forcing a smile to combat the unease creeping in. They couldn't afford to lose momentum now. Today is about connecting with people. We have to dive into their stories. Let them light a fire under this project. Right? Lisa said, her expression softening with his words. She took a deep breath. Let us think about who we haven't talked to yet. We need diversity in our stories, different ages, backgrounds, experiences. Jake nodded, energized by the new focus. I was thinking of driving by the community center. We might find families who could share their experiences. They know what it means to feel connected or disconnected. With their shared determination fueling them, they set off. As they arrived at the community center, the sight of children running around and laughter ringing through the air was uplifting. It reminded them of the joy that their project could potentially spark. They approached a group of parents huddled together on benches. Excuse us, we're Jake and Lisa, and we're trying to gather stories from our community for the Farmers Market project. Jake started, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. One woman, with eyes filled with warmth, smiled back. That sounds interesting. I'm Mia. I teach art here for kids. Everyone has a story, especially in this community. Absolutely. We'd love to hear about how art has impacted the families you work with. Lisa encouraged. As Mia shared her thoughts, Jake felt a wave of inspiration rolling in. She spoke of kids who found their voices through colors, of parents bonding over art classes, and a palpable sense of pride that filled her voice. Jake and Lisa quickly scribbled notes, not wanting to lose a single detail. But as they continued to gather stories, a painful memory surfaced for Jake. When he was small, it was the community that enveloped him with support after his family lost everything. He spoke then, cautiously opening up. When my family went through a tough time, it was the community that lifted us. The kindness of strangers became our lifeline. That's why I want so desperately to bring us all together now. Surprised, Lisa glanced at him, her eyes wide. I had no idea, she whispered. Jake took a breath, standing vulnerable for a moment. Felt liberating to share, yet the anxiety swirled inside him. That's what we are aiming for, he added, to create a platform for connection to remind people they aren't alone in tough times. As they wrapped up their conversation, Mia's eyes glistened with understanding. I believe in what you two are trying to do. You're not just building a market. You're building a home for anyone who needs it. Jake felt the buzz of possibility thickening in the air. They had discovered a powerful story to share, something real and deeply rooted in each person's experience. But just as they were celebrating, an unexpected figure stepped closer, a man dressed sharply, exuding authority. Excuse me, he interrupted, his voice slicing through the moment. I'm Councilman Richards. What's this I hear about a project? Jake's pulse quickened as he recognized this was the moment of truth. The man's presence shifted the energy around them, and suddenly everything felt at stake. Could they convince him to see the heart behind their vision? Or would the force of his position overshadow their dreams? As Jake locked eyes with Lisa, they both understood that this encounter could change everything. Would they have the courage to stand up for their project? Jake felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders like a blanket, heavy and suffocating. Councilman Richards stood before them, curiosity etched into his sharp features. The air buzzed with tension, and Jake knew he had to choose his words carefully. Hi, Councilman, Jake began, determination in his voice. We're trying to revive the old subway station into a vibrant food market. It's a community project that could bring life back to our town. The councilman raised an eyebrow, skepticism forefront. Another dream. Huh? What makes this project so special? His tone had a bite, but perhaps there was an opening. Every project has its critics. I want to see what makes yours different. Jake took a breath, feeling the warmth of support from Mia and the parents around him. This isn't just about food. It's about community. People here have been longing for connection, the laughter of families gathering, the stories woven through shared meals. This market can be a hub for that. We've already drawn support from local vendors, artists, and families. Support can fade easily, Councilman Richards rebutted, arms crossed expectantly. What's your plan if it doesn't pan out? Lisa stepped forward, joining forces with Jake. That's why we're gathering stories, real experiences. We've been talking to families, artists, and businesses, and the excitement is building. It's not just us. It's about everyone here. We have a petition with signatures of support growing by the day. The councilman's eyes narrowed, but a flicker of interest crossed his face. A crack in his armor. What if I want proof? Real evidence that this passion translates to success? He stepped closer, drawing attention from the gathering crowd. Jake felt a mix of panic and adrenaline. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a well-worn notebook filled with notes, sketches, and names gathered over the past few weeks. We have plans, outlines, and we're ready to present everything with data backing up our vision. This is about heart and numbers. This is how we reclaim what we've lost. Moments stretched like an elastic band, and Mia chimed in, her voice steady and fierce. People are talking. They want change. They need something to believe in. You, councilmen, are in a position to help build that. Don't you want to be a part of reviving this community? Jake watched as Richards processed the comments, observing the shift in his demeanor. Slowly, Jake's heart began to race with hope. It might just be enough. Those are compelling points, the councilman admitted cautiously. But let us see your plan. I want numbers on paper, community involvement demonstrated in black and white. Jake nodded eagerly, feeling the spark of possibility pricking at the edges of his heart. We're working on that, and we can have it to you in a week. We want to prove this market isn't just a dream, but a lifeline. The councilman nodded faintly. All right, prepare your materials. But know this, dreams without action aren't worth pursuing. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving behind an air of uncertainty, but also the flicker of potential. Relief washed over Jake and Lisa, mixed with exhilaration. Did you see that? Lisa exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. Yes, willing to listen. Yeah. We have a chance, Jake responded, feeling the warmth of their collective support. They had ignited a spark, and now was the moment to fan the flames. As the parents began to disperse, clapping Jake on the back, he felt the community rallying behind them, a tangible force, a wave that carried hope and resilience. Over the next week, they worked tirelessly. The kitchen table transformed into a command center, bustling with papers, collaborative spreadsheets, and the energy of determination. The world outside might have been gloomy, but inside, they were planning relentlessly, drafting ideas, and drawing on the stories they had collected. They interviewed the vendors, artists, and families, each tale carrying a heartbeat, each story a thread in the rich fabric they were weaving. Felt electric. During the days and late into the nights, laughter filled the air, and their resolve deepened. The council meeting loomed large in their minds. They had to be prepared to present a case not just backed by numbers, but charged with the passion of their community. Finally, the day of their presentation arrived. The atmosphere felt electric, as if the very air crackled with anticipation. Jake felt the familiar flutter of nerves, but also the strength pouring in from everyone who had stepped forward to support them. As they entered the council chamber, the weight of all those stories, all that belief wrapped around them like a warm embrace. Jake and Lisa shared a glance filled with determination and love. They were doing this together. When they were called to present, Jake stood confidently before the council members, his heart pounding, but he focused on the faces in the crowd, neighbors who had become friends, people who believed in what they were trying to accomplish. They spoke passionately, revealing the story of hope and renewal, intertwining the narratives of every individual they had connected with. They articulated their vision for a vibrant food market, how it would invigorate not only the local economy, but also the hearts of the community. When the final slide faded into view, the room erupted into applause. For the first time, he could see skepticism softening on the council's faces. The councilman Richards looked thoughtful, genuinely processing their words. Finally, Richards turned to address the meeting. You've sparked something tonight, challenged our perceptions, and presented compelling ideas. If you can follow through on this action plan promptly, we can approve your proposal at the next session. Jake felt as though the ground beneath him briefly gave way. Thank you. You won't regret it. We one tea stop until our vision is realized. That night, the sky opened up, and the rain fell gently, washing away the clouds that had hung over their town for so long. Underneath that rain, Jake felt a sense of clarity. They didn't just harbor a dream. They had ignited a movement. As laughter echoed through the streets, intertwined with warm embraces and the whispers of joy, Jake looked at Lisa, their shared smile illuminating the path forward. This was just the beginning. The journey ahead was still filled with challenges. But now they had the near certainty that change was coming. They felt it, hope ignited, a community awakening. And as they fell asleep that night, backpacks by the door filled with plans, they knew one thing for sure together. They would transform not just an old station, but a town. A revived spirit, a shared connection. Now, more than ever, your support is crucial. You need to subscribe now to the channel to keep up with exclusive stories that inspire. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. I want to hear from you. Comment your feelings about this amazing transformation. And don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread hope and create change.